The White House is all a tizzy after a breaking New York Times report that exposes some shady backroom dealings when it comes to Trump's budget abomination. Cue the nausea. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. Or should I just welcome all of you to this episode of Wild Kingdom? Today we're going to be discussing some major parasites and invertebrates in Washington. And let's be real, it's easy to mistake Mitch McConnell for some bottom-feeder fish off the coast of Australia. Yes, it's going to be one of those reports. So in case you missed it, late Saturday night, Trump's budget abomination passed a key hurdle in advancing in the Senate. Here's an update.
And President Trump's so-called one big beautiful bill moving forward. The Senate's late-night vote lasting about 4 hours. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joined us with the very latest from overnight. Good morning, Selena.
Hey, Janae, good morning. Early morning for us, but it was a very late night for the Senate. Congress is sprinting to get that so-called big, beautiful bill to Trump's desk by July 4th. So the Senate stayed up, barely getting enough votes to advance it. The president this morning calling it a great victory. Now, this bill is nearly 1,000 pages with a laundry list of Trump's campaign promises, including extending Trump's 2017 tax cuts, ending taxes on tips and overtime work, and making major cuts to Medicaid with estimates that it could lead nearly 11 million people losing their insurance over the next decade. Now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune could only afford to lose 3 Republicans. He ended up losing 2, and he had to scramble to get that support, with some balking at the price tag and the increase to the federal deficit, and others deeply concerned about those cuts to Medicaid. So now that this bill has advanced, Senate Democrats are stalling the process. They're currently reading the entire bill out loud. And guys, given that this is nearly 1,000 pages, it's expected to take up to 15 hours. And it is still a long road ahead for this bill. Even if it ultimately passes the Senate, it then goes back to the House, where Speaker Johnson also has razor-thin margins. And President Trump, meanwhile, he is putting the pressure on his party to get this done. He's been lashing out at anyone who opposes it. Rhiannon?
Our thanks to Selena Wang there for that update.
This advancement comes as something of a shock, given that as recently as Friday, 4 key senators, Josh Hawley, Rand Paul, Thom Tillis, and Lisa Murkowski, were all said to be a no vote on the bill. That changed late Saturday night thanks to some shady dealings, so stay with me here. And guess who flipped at the last minute?
Ms. Murkowski, aye.
Yes, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, one of the Senate's most moderate voices, a woman who, as recently as last week, said she would consider switching parties since she's uncomfortable with the direction of the Republicans, flipped to a yes vote on the bill at the last minute. Even in the dead of night, that managed to shock some political observers given the cost of the bill, the real damage it will inflict to red states by cutting programs like Medicaid, and that it cuts taxes for the super wealthy while also majorly adding to the debt. And now we know why Murkowski flipped. The New York Times now reports that the version of the bill that Murkowski voted to advance to full debate contains several conspicuous carve-outs for her state of Alaska. Alaska is the only state, according to the report, that is granted these provisions, which suggests that it was tantamount to a kickback granted to Murkowski for her vote. This version of the bill, the version that Murkowski voted to advance that is currently undergoing debate in the Senate, would provide a new tax exemption to fishers from villages in western Alaska. There is now an exemption from new work requirements for food assistance, and several provisions have been added that would funnel federal dollars to Alaskan healthcare providers. Hell, Alaskan whaling captains, who knew that was even a thing, even got an extended tax deduction, upping the limit from $10,000 a year to $50,000. This version of the bill also exempts Alaska from new cost-sharing requirements for SNAP and Medicaid. To soften the blow to Alaska of the Medicaid cuts in the bill, a new provision governing the share of medical bills paid by the federal government says that Alaska's rate should be 25% higher than what a typical state gets. So, feeling good yet? Historians love to talk about the so-called Cornhusker kickback that the Affordable Care Act granted to Senator Ben Nelson's state of Nebraska, ostensibly in exchange for his vote. And while this may be its own version of quid pro quo, it's also how the Senate tends to work. No, the story here is not that Murkowski is corrupt per se, it's that she's willing to throw the rest of the country under the bus as long as she gets something to show for it in her state. And while it's fitting that a senator's loyalty should lie with her state, it's disconcerting, to say the least, that Murkowski doesn't give a damn about the rest of the country. Well, I warned you this report would be about parasites and the spineless. So, here's hoping Murkowski and several other of her colleagues have a last-minute moment of moral clarity and vote no before sending the bill back to the House. This fight is not over yet, so make sure to contact your representatives. Heck, there's no reason why you can't call Lisa Murkowski's office either, and tell them how you really feel about this bill. My suggestion? Don't mince words. I'm David Reddish.